All right, guys, we are live. Hello and welcome. Thank you for tuning into another Creative Success Stories episode. Today, we are interviewing speaker, painter, poet, entrepreneurial badass. There's a billion other titles I could say here, Danielle LaPorte. And we're going to get into some juicy discussions about what it takes to honor your true calling and why striving to always be better can sometimes be detrimental to achieving your goals. Danielle is actually an invited member of Oprah's Super Soul 100, and she's author of 3 books. I have my worn out copy of the Desire Map right here, which is a guide to creating goals with the soul. She's also written the Fire Starter Sessions and an ebook that I've downloaded to all of my devices. Her latest book, White Hot Truth, Clarity for Keeping It Real on Your Spiritual Path from One Seeker to Another. Danielle, it's an honor. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi. And for everybody listening, like we're in neighboring cities.
Yes, so, we're actually in the same city. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's get right into it. I want to know, Danielle, what does it mean to you to know your truth and to honor your true calling?
Oh, well, I think truth and true calling are 2 different things. I mean, they're related, but I mean, truth for me it's my belief systems. It's how I think the world works. It's my worldview. My calling. I think I've known my I've known my calling for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But how that gets expressed, how I'm going to show up in the world with that can change. So,
okay.
I mean, for a long time here, I'm an author. This is my calling is to evoke light, is to bring some comfort. Basically, I want to do what I can to raise consciousness. Really clear on that. I could have been a documentary filmmaker. I could have written children's storybooks. I could, and this is what happened. This is just what happened. It's, I mean, a lot of steps to get here, and one door closed, and this led to this, and then something came along called the internet and WordPress, and now I'm here. But, yeah, that's what those things mean to me. Yeah.
So the medium could change for following your true calling.
Yeah.
Awesome. And in the book, in White Hot Truth, you talk about these 3 lies, and you talk about how these lies really hold you back from knowing your truth. Let's define what these are, because I think we inhale these very often as artists and creatives, and most of the time it's hard to tell. It's almost like an invisible veil in front of your face sometimes. So can you talk more about those lies and what they are?
Well, the first lie is the lie of inadequacy, that you were born with something not right, and that you have to earn your keep. And, depending on how you've been raised, a lot of us raised in some form of Christianity, we drink, it's in the water we drink, that we're born with original sin, that we have to work for acceptance of our God, our community. It's a big thing. And even if it hasn't been overt in your belief system there, it's there everywhere. I mean, this is what the patriarchal mindset loves to just dish out to everybody. You got to earn it, and we will exploit you along the way. So the lie of inadequacy, basically, I'm not good enough. The lie of authority, which is the lie that other people, and if you just like stop and really just listen to this for a second, like you can hear how ridiculous it is. It's the lie that somebody else other than you knows what's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't work? No. But that's pretty much how society is set up. Your teachers know what's best for you. Your parents know what's best for you. Your religious leader, your boss, whatever. And then the last one is the lie. What do I call it? The lie of
affiliation.
Thanks. It's the lie of affiliation. And that is basically the lie of groupthink, that if they're all doing it, well, must be good. I mean, all of them, like they've got a secret that I want in on. And then we get into the thing of wanting approval. And, it's human nature. We want to belong. We want to stand out and be special. and simultaneously we want to belong. So I think those lies drive pretty much everything we do. Yeah, and we can do all the self-helping could be from a healthy place, but the unhealthy self-helping is because of one, if not all of those lies.
Well, you mentioned that, too many of us think that other people's opinions are a higher power. We give power to other people, and that takes our own power away. Well, why does this happen, and where did we lose the ability to trust ourselves?
Well, it happens from birth, right? It's like this is generational and cyclical. This is like the human mortal coil. It's not. I mean, I wish it was just one thing. I wish I could say, well, educational system is fucked, and so we all need to like rehaul that. No, we need to overhaul everything. Like we've got a healthcare system that really isn't about healing us; it's about keeping us sick. We have a lot of religions that have really nothing to do with love and tolerance. It's just about keeping us controlled. We've got a beauty industry that has nothing to do with individual beauty. It's all about making us feel less than, so we're going to buy in. So things are just super backwards. It's deep. It's endemic. It's pandemic. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And I think, step one to waking up to make a change is to realize it's everywhere you step.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Instagram. It's every ad that you read. It's baked into politics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we must think for yourself.
Yeah, so I mean, you can only really control your own thoughts and yourself, what's happening for you, right? Not necessarily what's going around you, the external stuff. So that's where it comes to really take control of what your thoughts are, and also your beliefs as well, right?
Yes, mind of your own.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you talk about as well this conflict of spiritual aspiration and the compulsion to improve. Can you talk more about that?
They're two different things related. So you can want to eat clean, get in your Lululemon, get on the mat. So easy for us to do in the cities that we live in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can want to be closer to God. You can want to be a good person. You can want to be forgiving. All of those really good, healthy spiritual things. And sometimes we're doing those things for the wrong reasons. So we want approval. We feel less than. We want to get into heaven. We want to get into the club. We want to look good in yoga class. We want to hang out with the cool kids. We want to look great on Instagram. So we do all those things. You can do those same things for different reasons, for what I call like a real spiritual aspiration. Like I'm now at a point in my life, I'm not meditating to impress anybody. I don't feel like, I used to feel like there was some cosmic council that was going to say I was evolved and that I had accrued enough, great karmic points for all the meditating I'd done. I was going to get something. No, not so much anymore. Now it makes me feel good. I feel useful. I'm a more loving person, clear-minded. I meditate. I get to yoga because I think I'm going to die if I don't.
So much a part of you, right?
Yeah. Oh God, there's so many nights, especially in the last month or so, where, you have that get to yoga class on time anxiety because you don't want the door to be closed. And I'm driving, it's the irony, right? Just hauling ass to get to yoga on time. And I just think, if I don't get there, I'm going to just fall apart and cry, and they'll have to just cram a mat in for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, right? That's yoga is just one little thing that is a wellness task on our to-do list, but it can be filled with so many other things, right? Like meal prep or, going workouts and fitness and this and making sure you read every day. And, it's a lot of stuff. So, at what point do you think, where is that line, or is there a line for someone, where it's like, okay, I got to examine this and see if it's actually really helping me.
Yeah. Well, the line is, and here's the exercise for everybody to do if you want to do something about this, is write out all the things that you're self-helping about. And it's like yoga will be on that for a lot of us, and the clean eating and the green juicing and the shaman and I want to go to Costa Rica and maybe do some whatever here, and and the therapy. Okay. And all the books we're reading. And then ask yourself which of those things you're resenting, which of those feels heavy, which of those feels too expensive. I think, I've had experiences where I was paying $30 for something and I just thought, I don't want to pay this money. And the other things where I'm paying $500 for something and I would have paid them more because it was so valuable, right? So it's not about the dollar value. It's about if you feel like it's worthwhile or you're getting ripped off. And really, it's which of those things really compels you, like you really want to do it. It's lighting you up. It's feeding you. And which of those just feels like heavy obligation, or you're trying to look better. And then, the heavy look better things, stop. Stop.
Yeah.
Even like down to the practical stuff of like, do you really, I was on a few weeks ago, like 25 different supplements. I mean, I had some other stuff going on because I got this weird virus, but not necessary. Just stop. Just focus on one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we're always striving to be a better person, a better partner, a better parent, a better artist, better at your craft. And we hear so often, to strive to be better. Like that's a thing, like create your vision board, have your big goals. And again, it comes back to, okay, well, like this pressure to try to always be better, and everything could be hurting us. So how do we stay focused? How do we just continue doing our thing when there's so much else going on?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, what I just suggested is you pare it down and then you get really devoted. And I think, some of us will get focused, we'll make the right choices because we're in pain and we're motivated by pain. It's not a bad thing. But this hurts and I want out. And some of us are motivated by pleasure. I'm here and that could be better. I'm going to move towards that. I do think being motivated by pleasure is better.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And what can you talk a little bit more too about comparison? Like we always compare ourselves to other people. Sometimes we might even get jealous because we see a lot of other people, especially in the entrepreneurial space, achieve such great heights, and they're doing this and this, and we really want that for ourselves. Can you talk a little bit more about that and jealousy too?
It's toxic. Comparison is toxic. Just stop it. I mean, it's easier said than done, but just you have to realize it's holding you back. It's messing with your thinking. It's like mind poison. You have to know this. There's a few things you need to do just to get out of that comparison mind game. But one of them is to know that everybody, it's a beautiful Plato saying, everybody is fighting their own war, something like that. Is it Socrates? No, it's Plato. Anyway, there isn't anybody I know in my space of authors and being on the road and being public speakers who hasn't had some incredible success and at the same time is dealing with something really difficult and potentially life-shattering. Like everybody, you can't necessarily believe someone's happiness, and definitely don't believe their Instagram feed necessarily. Or let's just, it's not about so much about disbelieving. It's just there's so much else. And I think, we're in a time where, like, look, I get to curate what I put on my Instagram feed, and that's my right. And I don't need to show you all of my bad days. I write about my bad days. So it's not so much about trusting, it's just having some spiritual maturity to know that everybody is going through their stuff. And everybody's got something that somebody else wants, whether it's the money or it's the partner or it's the peace. A lot of us just really want time now. So there's that. And
Everyone's always trying to put their best foot forward online, right?
yeah, for sure. But you mentioned the word jealousy.
Yeah.
Be grateful for what you have. I mean, this sounds so motherly, but really the antidote to jealousy is gratitude. Really, really. Jealousy hasn't been like a major thing for me, but I can remember in my early 20s, I used to really envy kids who were trust fund babies, who were born into an inheritance, and just like, no one bought me a car for my 16th birthday. And I just had to stop and be grateful for what I had. That was it. Like a ton of freedom, a lot of ingenuity, an amazing job that I worked for. Just, yeah, gratitude,
Yeah.
gratitude, gratitude.
Having a gratitude practice daily really
It is a practice.
helps ground yourself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the book as well, you also talk about timing counts a lot when it comes to discovering your truth. Why? Why do you think that?
What do I say in the book?
Timing counts for so much when it comes to discovering your truth.
Oh, I don't know. What did I mean by that? Sounds like a good line. I don't know. Sometimes it just comes down. It sounds good. Timing counts for so much. Well, you can't rush it. I think that's what I was saying by that. Yeah, you have to trust there's so much to do, with timing, there's so much forcefulness that comes from us. I'm going to get there on time. I'm going to get there by then. This is my due date. This is my deadline. This is, but this certain age, I'm going to have achieved this much. So that's a recipe for striving.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite energy of that is trust that you're already right on time, that you're right where you need to be, where you're meant to be. And it's took me a while and a lot of pushing and some failure to realize right where I need to be at all times. And that conversation around trust gets into the conversation around failure.
Mm-hmm.
That when you fail doesn't mean that you don't feel it, that it doesn't stop you in your tracks, that you don't have to grieve, doesn't mean that there's not some justice required. But every failure I've had, sometimes it was just a week later, sometimes it was 2 years later, I always was able to go, wow, that was a good thing that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Even when it was fucking devastating at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, all meant to be.
Yeah, and I think eventually, or what you were saying in that sentence too, is that it also it has a lot to do with your upbringing, and you can't, all the things that you grew up with as beliefs won't necessarily serve you later on in life as you cruise control through life. And you say eventually we have to examine those beliefs and start asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
And my question to you is, what kinds of questions do you ask yourself to elicit those responses?
The basic one: does this work for me? Do I believe this? Do I
Mm-hmm.
believe this? I think the majority of us, the vast majority of us, are raised in belief systems that don't fit who we are. Basically, because we're still evolving as a species, and we've got it wrong. There's a lot that we have got wrong. There's a lot that we have got right too. Um, and then some of us were raised in ways where a belief system, a religious belief system, wasn't overt. It's like, well, then we need to be asking ourselves, what do we believe? And I just watched a beautiful documentary last night called One of Us about the Hasidic Jewish community and people literally having to escape from that community. And it was so heartening to watch. One of the people that they focus on in it is this 20-year-old guy asking, like, does God really work this way? And huge struggle and turmoil to do this, but that's how you become whole. That's how you figure out where your creative edge is. That's how you create your reality. It's figuring out what you believe. Yeah.
And I also loved too a part in the book where you said that you literally wanted to burn everything that you wrote earlier that morning, because it's something that's just so relatable, especially for artists and creatives. Is like, well, for me as well, I'm a singer, I'm a performer, and every time I might have come up with something from the past that I just want to toss away, and like, I don't want to hear that again. I don't want to hear my first album. And but at the same time, I'm aware that it was a part of my growth at that time.
Yeah.
And
got you here.
Yeah. And it got me to where I am now. How do you deal with those moments though, where like at the time, like your insides just cringe and you're like, I can't believe I actually released that into the world.
Oh, you just have to suck it up. I mean, it doesn't ever get more pleasant. Like if I look back on time, I go, oh, I can't believe I said that. I wrote that. I wore that, whatever. It never gets easier to look at the cringy stuff. You just, it gets easier to move on though. You're just like, yep, did it. That's where I was at the time. That was useful for somebody at the time. Somebody now is going to find that useful because that's where they're at, or it's going to be just the right thing to resonate with them. And you just keep going. Just keep going. Because if you regret it, you won't get to your current creative edge. You'll kind of hedge yourself in a bit, Yeah.
Oops, it'll affect it'll affect what you're actually working towards too. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
So I guess you just got to build that muscle. You got to come out of it pretty quickly. Yeah. So what do you think it takes to honor your true calling?
Courage, desire, stamina, devotion. Yeah. All those things. Not easy, worth it. How bad do you want it? How committed are you? Yeah. And are you doing it for the love? You got to do it for the love.
For the love of the craft and for the love of yourself?
Yeah, ideally the love of yourself for sure. But yeah, the craft, you have to you've got to serve and make it for the right reasons. The reason being, it brings you joy. You feel self-expressed and you feel useful. I mean, really, those are my 3 reasons. This feels good. I'm being of service. Yeah. And the bonus is I make some money. And, once I've gotten the art out, then I'm super strategic about how I monetize things and, be a rad business person. But first the love, first the heart, then the hustle. And I think it's 80% heart, 20% hustle.
And what would you say to those artists who use lack of money as a crutch? Like, I can't fully do what I envision because I'm held back by funds.
Well, sometimes that's a reality. So it's tough. It's tough out there. And there's always a way to express yourself. So, you just play with scale, right? Is it okay to just like sing over holiday dinners, or do you need to pack a club? Probably both, or somewhere in between. Maybe you need to busk. Let's figure out how much you love to sing. You get a license on Granville Island and busk for a while.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. Scale. Scale. Do what you can with what you have.
Yeah, like there's a great quote from Steve Wozniak, who's one of the founders of Apple, and he said they made their best things when they had no money, and didn't know what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also wanted to touch upon another part in your book where you say we are big spirits with human shortcomings.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're being our authentic selves, you say, we will be walking, breathing, dancing, tweeting contradictions.
Yes.
What do you mean by you would be a contradiction?
My version of holistic includes, a lot of purity, a lot of cleansing, and a lot of some trashy stuff. Like I love a cigarette once in a while. I have, one of the reasons I travel is so I can read People magazine. There's lots of, I'm like, fuck this, fuck that, but let's pray. Let's gather to pray. Um, so those are contradictory in terms for some people. It depends how you look at it. And I think too, as you grow, you're going to be on your platform, on your stage, on your soapbox saying one thing. And
Mm-hmm.
10 years later, 5 years later, 3 years later, what you have to say could be very different. And that's the result of growing. Like there's lots of things I've said in the past that I don't agree with now. And if I was going to keep up this facade that, yes, that was perennial wisdom and it's been guiding my life, then I'm just a big fat fake and I'm not, as I've said, on the creative edge. So if you're alive, if you're creative, if you have an opinion, you are going to contradict yourself. You are going to make yourself really right or really wrong at some point, and you're going to admit you've changed. And that's part of being present. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of expectation out there to be consistent with what you do.
Well, that's integrity. So,
Mm,
but if you mean consistent, like the same branding, the same, yeah, that can become a prison.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's actually a post that I saw the other day on Instagram that kind of goes along with that contradiction thing. I want to show it to you and see what you think about it. I don't know if you can see this, but it says art won't save the world. That's probably backwards on your end.
No, I can
Art,
see it. Or it
you
won't
can see it. Art won't save the world. Go
go
volunteer at a soup
Yeah.
kitchen.
Fuck
You
yeah.
pretend to.
Yeah.
So this was something that was posted in New York, and I actually created a video about this and a ranting about how art does save the world.
Yes.
And someone commented and said something very interesting. They said, "Did you consider that was an art piece?"
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it made me think of that contradiction thing. What do you think of that post?
Well, I think the answer to so much is both. Art does save the world, absolutely, unquestionably. The beauty it creates, the connection it creates, it's strengthening, and I mean, I could go on about that. Will art alone save the world? Of course not. Will volunteering in soup kitchens alone save the world? I mean, you could use that as a metaphor. Maybe the answer is yes, but no, of course not. I mean, we need beauty, and you can see. Um, I'm waiting to see out of all the pain that we've been through in this last year, the year being 27 with the US election and mass shootings and Syria. It's been an awful year. Um, I'm waiting to see what comes out in terms of art next year.
Mm,
Just that
yeah,
production cycle. It's going to start to show up in lyrics.
yeah,
It's going to start to show up more in published poetry. Yeah, I'm bring it on.
yeah, yeah. It's amazing how beauty comes out of those hardships.
Yeah.
How something to celebrate still comes out of those ugly things.
Yeah, I was the night, just one more note on this. The night of the US election, a friend of mine and I were at a Lauryn Hill concert in
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver. And she came on late because she's Lauryn Hill. And everybody, we were frantically, the whole audience was on their phones checking results, elections. And, it started to turn around, I don't know, 10 at night. And people turning to each other going, can you believe this? It looks like he's going to win. And we thought she might be so devastated she wouldn't come out. But that's pretty much what she said was, once she did a few songs and then took a minute to connect, she said, art will come out of this. And it's happened before. It happened with the civil rights movement. It happened with the last war. Like, yeah.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. It's words from Lauryn Hill. I'll believe them. I'm a big fan. Awesome. Okay, I wanted to also ask you another question too. So I think that this happened in another interview. You were talking about this. You were talking about the difference between being, I think it was being detached versus being
attached,
or unattached or something like that. There was, I can't remember what it was. It was, being detached versus unattached or something like that.
Yes.
And it had to do with your goals, not being too overly attached to your goals, but wanting them, but not wanting them too much. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. This is about, you've got a vision, you've got a dream, and you want it with your whole heart.
Mm-hmm.
Stop, hit pause there. So one direction that we go in is we are overly attached to that goal. It's got to happen. If that doesn't happen, I'm not going to be my full self. My life can't go on. I will not, basically, I won't be able to experience joy, happiness, fulfillment if that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's attached. And that even just that motion, you can see it's just like chokes it. You're just so vibrating at that level of like, gotta. It can't come in. The other way is you want it with all your heart, you're really clear, and you trust. Even if it doesn't happen, you're going to go on. You're still going to be fulfilled. You'll feel joy. You will be valuable. You're still talented, right? Like life will have something better in store for you. It's this trust and this exhale. See, even just that energy shift, it can come to you. And then somewhere in between, I think over here where we have the clarity, the intense desire is really the back to trust that we can allow it to come in. We have faith. I mean, we have to work on sweeping doubt out of there on a regular basis, but we have faith that in one form or another, that dream will be realized.
Well, how does that compare then to the law of attraction? Because with the law of attraction, you have to think about it all the time. You have to become obsessed with it. You have to be it at the time and everything. And that obsession can, lead to that attachment. It does lead to that attachment.
Mm-hmm.
So
fine line. So I'm down with that. I'm down with the law of attraction stuff. But what's often missing in that equation is the trust and that calm, steady. It's like a breathing, like I believe, I'm doing my work every day. I'm seeing it. I'm feeling it. I'm believing I am worthy. I'm going to do that and repeat instead of all of those things. And it's got to happen or I'm going to lose my mind.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So having that trust. Okay. That makes sense. Awesome. Okay. And I had another piece that I wanted to touch upon too. You're talking about superhuman versus being a superhuman.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again,
go ahead.
I was going to say, so again, that has to do with the striving, right? Trying to be superhuman, trying to do everything at once, being perfect, making sure this project is perfect and everything. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, for me, it was about being like super evolved. Like I was going to meditate for 5 hours instead of 5 minutes. And eat super clean and be so tolerant and so forgiving of everybody and basically, be able to walk through walls. No, I'd rather just be kind and know how my stove works. Actually, don't need to know how my stove works. I just discovered, I've lived in this house for 2 years. I just discovered this whole other part of the stove. I didn't even know was there. Um, I'm here. I want to be integrated. I don't want to ascend this life. I'm not looking for my spirituality or my practices to get me out of my body or to get me above the mundane things or even to get me out of the pain about just being here on the planet at this time. It's painful and it's awful and it's beautiful and delicious. I just really want to have this full experience now. Don't want to get away from it. And guess what? That's where the spirit is, ironically.
Being present.
Yeah, being human. Yeah, yes, being present. Yeah.
This is a little bit off topic, but lately I've been seeing a lot of butterflies.
Mm-hmm.
I've been seeing a lot of a lot of butterflies everywhere I look. And then I just saw, again, you had a tattoo. Yeah. What does that mean?
This is about courage. So it's not about change or metamorphosis, which is, one of the typical symbols for butterflies. This was inspired by a story I read about Native Indians who painted the butterfly on their what do you call on their shields for war, because they thought that to be so delicate and to come into a world that they didn't know what was going to be on the other side was the most courageous thing you could do. Yeah, I want that.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the circle, what is on the other arm? What does that mean?
Well, the circle is a sort of a Buddhist reference. It means a couple things. One, it's just difficult to tattoo a circle on, so I love the aesthetic of it, the simplicity of it. But the Buddhist reference is, everything is empty, but everything is full at the same time, or both. And then more of like a personal reference is like, I'm open, but I have boundaries. Yeah.
You're open, but you have boundaries.
Yeah.
Another contradiction.
Yeah.
I love that. That's cool. Very interesting. Okay, well, Danielle, let's talk more about your book. Who is White Hot Truth for, and why might it help someone?
Well, hopefully this conversation is helpful. I mean, everything that's in White Hot Truth is this vibe. And I wrote it for the person who's been seeking long enough that maybe they have some fatigue, but they're not going to stop seeking. And for the person who's just, really starting to wake up on that path, to say, really the thesis of the book is you are your own guru.
Yeah. Awesome. And guys, if you are interested in getting the book, the link is down in the description below, and also entering into Danielle's world too. Her website link is down there below. I'm just going to see if we have any questions that have come in from our audience. 1 second. What is your superpower?
Listening.
Very cool. And
I'm really good at gifts.
And giving gifts. You're a good gift giver.
Yeah, I always know just what you want. Yeah.
Awesome. And I'm compelled to ask this question. I don't know why, but if you were a bird that couldn't fly, what would you do?
Well, wouldn't that make me a penguin?
If you weren't a penguin or an ostrich and you were a bird that was supposed to fly but you couldn't fly, what would you do?
Well, I'd make do. Well, I'd still have a fantastic nest. It would just be on the ground. I'd just make a great nest. There's still so much you can do on the ground. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. I love that answer. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Danielle. I don't have
Win the
any other
prize
further
for a
questions
question that I've
here.
never been asked before. That's great.
Oh, good. Awesome. Yeah, it came out of nowhere. So it's an authentic, true question. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you very much for giving your time today and sharing your wisdom with us. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure everyone who's watching here also really appreciates it.
Yeah. Thanks to everybody who's listening. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay.
Bye, Danielle. Have a great rest of the day.